Hello, this is Michael with Colman & Company. That's colmanandcompany.com. We're available down here in Tampa, Florida. Today we're going to discuss how to put stones on glass. So when I say stones, I'm talking about rhinestones. You can also work with rhine studs, even nail heads. The process of putting them on glass involves a pretty fancy material that we refer to as hard surface material. It's got a nice little shine on the front. That's where your stones are going to be placed. And on the back, there's basically a paper carrier that when you peel it off, it becomes a sticker. Now, if you look around the table here, you've got some designs that have been placed on the material. We're going to try to zoom in on what you might see as a clear border. This material is the hard surface. The stones were heat pressed directly to the hard surface material, and once the backing was peeled off, we were able to place them directly on this piece of plexi for demonstration purposes. Moving around the table, you'll see some designs that you may recognize, your typical soccer mom, cheerleading megaphone. Any of these designs, it doesn't really matter which design you use. Every design that you see here can be placed on hard surface material and then put on a hard surface, whether it be glass or wood or metal. It doesn't really matter. A flatter surface is better than a curved surface. Please understand that. The flatness of the material will work best on a flat surface. So all of these designs were put on in the same general way. Okay? Now this is an excellent example of what works a little easier and what works a little bit more difficult. The star and the heart are good examples of closed stone designs. There's no open space inside. This design is completely closed, where the peace symbol has that open space. It can be done on hard surface material. The difference or the difficulty lies in that material inside. If it touches the heat press, which it generally could, it'll discolor. And then your next choice would be to trim that out, make it look a little cleaner. But you can do them, but this design here, this type of design, a closed design, is preferred over an open. The other idea behind it, which is very important to make, is it is better to work with one size stone rather than 2 and 3 different sizes. If you do have to work with a double-sized stone, you kind of want to stick with something that would be only one jump, from a 10 to a 16 or from a 6 to a 10. Try not to jump 2 stone sizes. Okay, what we're going to do in today's project is we're going to take these 2 hearts one at a time. We're going to put them on the surface of the hard surface material, and by the time we're finished, we're then going to try to put these directly on the candy jar as well as the motorcycle helmet. Both of these projects are going to involve a lot of detail. It's going to start at the heat press. So we're going to take everything over there, so come on along. What we're going to try to do, we're going to trim this heart in half so that we can work one at a time. And at the same time, we also are going to stress the importance of adjusting the pressure of your heat press. One of the things I like to do is I'll adjust the pressure of the heat press as light as I can. All you're looking for is to press the stones gently, just enough to heat them, not enough to squeeze the bejesus out of the glue behind it. All the glue that goes into a garment will, you see how I can move that parchment paper? That's not bad. I actually might loosen it up just a little bit more. As I loosen it up and I can pull it out a little gentler or a little easier, that kind of tells me that the heat press is pretty much where I want it to be. Now imagine, if you will, you're a stone. You're a rhinestone and you have glue behind you. When you get heated and you press into the garment, that glue is going to seep into the fabric of the garment. On hard surface material, the material is flat. It's non-porous. That glue is going to like donut out from around the sides of those stones. You want to see that. But if you press too hard, the glue will come out and around the top of the stone, covering them, making your design look very, very bad. Nobody wants that. So light heat press pressure is key. Okay, so let's do some trimming. We're going to work one at a time just so that you get an idea of what it is that you need to do. Now, when we're here, I'm going to give you the idea of something else you need to do. You want to trim all of the sticky transfer paper away from that heart design. You want the least amount of transfer paper to be contacting the top of the hard surface. The more transfer paper that touches the hard surface, the more trouble it will be. So we're just going to give this a real quick design. We're going to show you one of these. We're not going to do them both for you, however. You get the idea behind it. We are going to wind up doing both designs before we do our demonstration. But you want to get the least amount of stickiness to be touching that material. We're going to trim just a little bit more, a little bit closer. Once you have the rhinestone design trimmed, all the sticky transfer paper is trimmed away, you also want to give yourself just a rough cut on the hard surface material. You don't need to waste a whole lot of it if you're working one stone at a design at a time. Let's just trim away some excess, and we'll put this out of the way, away from the heat press. And now what we have, it's pretty simple. We have a naked rhinestone design right on the face of that hard surface material. Put it on your heat press, and you definitely want to protect it, so we're going to put a piece of parchment paper right over the top. And all we're going to do is press it down for about 15 seconds under that light pressure we talked about. Now granted, I adjusted the pressure. I haven't tested the pressure. After about 15 seconds, we're going to open the heat press back up, and we're going to take a nice close look at the stones. You want to see a donut of clear glue around each stone. If you see that, your pressure was perfect. If you don't see that donut of glue, then you need to adjust that pressure a little bit tighter. Now, I'm a 46-year-old guy from New Jersey, so my eyes are bad. I'm going to look a little closer. Okay, I see some really good glue here. Okay, a lot of them do have the donut glue around it. I'm going to press it one more time, but I'm going to adjust the heat press down just a little bit to give a little bit more pressure. And we're going to go once again the full 15 seconds, because only about half of them had good pressure. We're going to do the rest. So once you set your heat press, you probably can do design after design after design without much problem. Okay, we're going to lift it back up. Now at this point, I feel pretty confident. I am going to press down on those stones a little bit with a cloth to protect this is still kind of warm. I'm just giving the stones a nice push down. Now at this point, I can peel this away. Now the way I test this is I am going to let it settle up a little bit, so I'm going to wave it to sort of cool those stones down. All I'm going to try to do is I'm going to grab one side of the transfer paper. That's the stuff that's holding the stones in place. I'm going to pull one direction, see if any stones are loose. Then I'll pull it the other way. Once I determine that everything is glued down properly, that's when I will say that it's finished. Now you see how these stones, nothing is on the clear paper, all the stones are down. I'll push that side back down, then I'll grab the other and do the exact same thing. Everything is nice and clean. There's no stones on that transfer paper. This is basically a finished heat press. We're going to go back to our table, and we're going to trim away all this excess material, and we'll show you how you can apply it. We're back from the heat press, and like I showed before, the items have been heat pressed so that it's sticking to the surface, the hard surface material, not to the transfer sheet. Now, at this point, you're trying to make a nicer, neater heart. So I like to use the term 1/8 of an inch. You see this space here between the stone and the outside material? That's going to be your nice clear border. That's going to allow you to push down a nice tight edge on the final placement of this material. So all I'm doing is I am trimming nice and easy about an eighth of an inch away from the border of that design. Nice sharp pair of scissors. These happen to be found at Colman & Company under Ginger brand scissors. Nice little segue of buying scissors from us. Nice sharp Ginger model, and smaller probably the better because you can control them a lot easier. And this is all we're doing. We're going to finish this real easy. Okay. Now at this point, this is a finished design. It's got the paper carrier on the back that covers the sticker. And then on the front, this literally could go on somebody's shelf ready to be used on another day. But at this point, we are going to place this heart on the side of our candy jar. Why not? Everybody loves candy, right? All right, now at this point, I'm going to reach in my pocket. I usually like to use a pocket knife at this point, only because the edge of, and like I said, old guy, got to remove my glasses. I'm going to start the backing by putting a sharp blade in between the rhinestone hard surface material and the paper backing. You guys can do this any way you want. This is how I do it. Okay? So once I get it started, the question then becomes, you want to peel the backing away from the design, not the opposite. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to keep the design flat, peel the backing away. So if I bend anything, I'm trying to bend the paper backing and not the design. Okay? That wasn't too shabby. Now at this point, I'm going to lay this down so I can work with it. And I'm just going to put this at an angle because I think it looked kind of neat if it was at a bit of an angle. I'm going to start on one end and sort of work out the air bubbles, kind of go in one direction. And once, all I'm touching really is the inner part of that design. And when I get down to where I'm just about done, now I can peel off the transfer paper. And once I peel that off, see how that's nice and clean? I'm then going to simply push down on that outer edge. That's the 1/8 inch edge that we left. That's a nice tight border. Pushing that down, getting a nice and clean edge. And look at that. That's gorgeous. Heart number 2. You recall earlier we did the candy jar. Now we're going for this rounded surface of a motorcycle helmet. If you remember, motorcycle helmets are usually rounded. They're not flat and square. The material is a flat surface material, but if the design is small enough, it should be able to go on a rounded surface without much trouble. Now, if I had my choice, we're going to pan over to another little area here. This 4-leaf clover might actually work a little better on a design because you can actually trim right down these little edges and maybe make these as 4 separate petals using the center as a middle fulcrum. But if they're all one solid surface, you may get some crinkling or some wrinkling. So we're going to try this heart on this rounded surface. So just like the other one, we're going to trim the material that'll have an 1/8 of an inch or so border to have a nice clean edge. So I'm going to trim this around. The nice young lady that you see in the reflection of the helmet there, her name is Kara. She's taking care of our videoing today. She's going to be patient enough to watch me trim this whole thing. All right, once we get through it, just like we did with the other one, we're going to have a nice little clean bordered edge, and we're going to try to put this on this helmet. So cross your fingers that we have enough room on the roundness of the helmet to work with that flat material, and it doesn't crinkle. So we'll get rid of that, and again, we're going to resort to the pocket knife, and I have to remove the glasses for me to see up close. All right, let's start out with this edge here. We're just going to try to work that edge. Okay, and once we get it started, and I can slip a little fingernail under there, we should be able, and I missed it. Round 2. There we go. That should work better. Okay, we are going to try to peel the backing away from the design, trying to keep the design flat. Okay, there we go. Now at this point, we're going to try to just put it right on the side of the helmet. And again, we're going to start in the center and just sort of work outward, getting rid of as many air bubbles as we can. And folks, you can use a liquid type of adhesion to this, like a liquid that will help you move it around. I just like to put it on dry. You don't have to worry about it setting up too late. See, we peel that off. That came out pretty good. Now let's see if we can't work out that edge and try to keep that wrinkling down to a minimum. The rounded surface is definitely going to work a little bit against us here, but if we just take a little time to work out that edge, I think it's looking pretty good. We'll see what the final product. Oh, look at that. I put it right over the rivet. Don't do that. Got to look ahead. We're going to put over the rivet anyway. I definitely did not see that coming, but that's what these videos are for. Learn from your mistakes. Overall, though, that heart definitely looks like it went on that helmet very well, and we didn't have any type of wrinkling issue with the roundness of the helmet, and we have a neat little stone at the bottom there called a rivet. Anyhow, how's that? Pretty good stuff. I won't be wearing it, but maybe Kara will wear it. We'll see. Okay? You can always find the hard surface material at colmanandcompany.com. Visit us today and start putting stones on glass. Your customers will love it.